Hi everyone, welcome back to our continuing education check-in. Today is super exciting. We're going to be talking about, I completely forgot. We're gonna have to redo that.
We're going to be talking about who pays on a first date.
Yes.
Where do the responsibilities go? And then at the end, we're gonna have a little segment that we're gonna be calling Dapper Slap. And you guys will just find out what that is if you listen until the end.
Yeah.
But before that, Ethan, as always, I think I need some advice. And mine is gonna be really, really quick this time.
Okay.
Because I think more than advice, I just want reassurance on if what I'm thinking is correct. This boy that we've been calling the cheater all along, I think somebody else called him the email guy. We can use any name. The email guy is a little nicer. I don't know if he deserves that now. Basically, you guys are all caught up until, our first time hanging out, our second time hanging out. And then since then, I literally, hardly get any texts from him.
Wow.
And I personally think that I have been ghosted. And I just want to know when is, a good time to, acknowledge, yeah, you've been ghosted and that's it. Move on.
That's a great question. And I wish I didn't have to go off the heezy, but in general, ghosting, there's halfway ghosting and then full out ghosting.
Okay.
And so it's early now, and so we don't know what form of ghosting it is.
This is halfway ghosting.
Exactly.
I'm getting one little text every 24 hours. I'm getting oh, what are you doing Sunday? And then nothing.
Even after you tell him your plans?
Yeah, and I told him, even though I wasn't free, I made myself seem free. And still nothing.
How did you make yourself seem free?
I said I'm doing stuff in the morning and I'm doing errands and then that's it.
Okay, but did you explicitly say, I'm free in the afternoon?
No, but I said I'm just doing stuff in the morning, and then I'm doing errands. I don't know. In my way, I thought I said that I was kind of free. But yeah, just that's it. I he could have at least texted oh, but what are you doing in the afternoon?
Yeah.
Nothing. I literally haven't heard from him. And obviously, as you know, he's in our little kind of.
Yeah.
So, and there's different events coming up, and I know for a fact he's going to be there, and I know for a fact he knows I'm going to be there. But I feel it's almost I'm being demoted back to when we first started talking, where it was we talked about it
where chores friends.
Yeah, and it's very low effort, and it's I'll just run into you, but I won't make a plan to see you. So I really feel personally, I'm feeling very used. I feel he, maybe just wanted to know that I would give him a chance, but I don't think he wanted anything more than that.
That's definitely possible. Let's try to put this into context a little bit. Do you know what's happening in his life outside of work or in his personal life right now? Because last time when we were talking and last time we were filming the podcast, he was already not being very responsive to you. But then we found out later that was because his car was in the shop the whole week. Right. And so he probably couldn't have hung out and he is taking care of other stuff.
Right.
So based on your reaction, it sounds like you don't know if there's anything going on right
okay,
now.
Fine. I guess maybe I'm jumping to conclusions. Yeah. I just really don't want to get hurt. I'd rather beat him to the punch and just not, be the first one to stop thinking about things. But yeah, I don't know what's going on in his life. I'm just assuming, if you're texting me if you're texting me that you want to kind of hang out and then you don't follow through. Yeah. I really don't like that. Yeah. About people.
Yeah.
So that, is kind of making me feel like I've just been ghosted.
Okay. So I think if I were in your shoes and if I was the girl in the situation, then next time he asks what my plans are for a specific day, I would say explicitly I'm free this time. Okay. And then also say, do you want to do something? Oh. And you I get that reaction, right? But hear me out, because you're thinking that you're giving him too much power by saying something like that, but the ball's still in his court to actually plan something. You're just you're just showing that you are interested. But if he does not respond well, if he doesn't plan something, if he doesn't follow up,
Right.
then I would just like totally
Okay.
back off.
Right? Okay.
I think we should give him a little more of a shot, give him a little more string, but then that's it.
Man, you're really his biggest supporter out here.
I'm advocating for all the guys out there that are being stupid in these
Okay.
situations. And I do think he's being stupid. And for the guys out there who are watching, if you find yourself in this situation, don't mess around with a girl's feelings. If you're not interested,
Yeah.
don't do those half texts. If you're actually interested in meeting up, ask them what they're doing on Sunday and then follow through on it. It's not fair to put someone else in that situation where they're just kind of guessing
And
what's
they're
going
like
on.
waiting around.
Yeah.
Like all day Sunday, I was like, is he going to randomly just text me and assume that, I'm like good to go? Like, because that also doesn't feel good. So
Yeah.
I definitely plan it out. And he's capable of doing it. Like I'm saying
Yeah.
all this stuff, he has done it in the past. He was a really good texter. It's just because there's such a sudden change in his behavior, I'm like, oh, like something's definitely up.
Yeah, and there probably is. But what I'm saying is you can give him just a little more string. I don't think you're surrendering like too much of your advantage. Ball's still in his court. We'll see what he does with it.
I honestly think the next time I'm going to see him is going to be at this. So I guess you're going to be there to watch live what, if anything, happens. I was planning on being a really big when I got there. But I don't know. Depending on the mood, maybe we'll give him a chance.
I try to keep you in check. I get that. That's everyone's natural reaction. But I want whatever happens to work out for you in the best
Yeah.
way. And so even if this happens, it doesn't happen, at least like you approached it in a healthy way.
True. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I have a question for you. I've been talking to a few different girls on Hinge.
Ooh.
And that's pretty common, but there's one of them, she asked to meet up. And this always happens on Hinge, at least for me. And we can talk about how to get to this point, but the conversation keeps dragging. And so it's very clear that it's time to meet up.
Okay.
Otherwise, like, we should just move on and
Right.
stop talking. And so this girl was like, she asked me if I wanted to meet up. And then she said, I wouldn't be offended if you don't want to meet up. And I'm like, that makes no sense,
Okay.
right? Like, we're all on this to meet people.
Right.
But the weird thing is that I made plans with her, and then she roasted the heck out of me. So she was asking me, she knew I grew up in New York. And so she asked me, like, if I feel out of place because people don't dress as well here in the Bay Area. And so I was saying, yeah, I miss how people dress in New York. People put a lot of thought into what they wear, and they're more creative, and they have a lot more fun with their outfits. And then she says the guy who wears a striped polo and cargos. And if you guys have seen the first episode when we went through my Hinge profile, you would see that striped polo and cargo pants that she's talking about. And she was like, I hope that you don't wear those and call that dressing up for church. And I'm like, girl, I've never met you. I don't even know you. You're still a stranger. Like, we've talked.
Wait, this is when you met up in person?
No, this is...
she's replying to your profile. Okay.
This is like right after we made plans.
Okay.
And we're still talking on the app.
Okay.
And I'm like, why are you like...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's... First of all, it's a little out of pocket. I can take it. It doesn't bother me. But if my friend said that to me, like, it's pure jokes. If a stranger said that to me, I don't know. I think that's kind of weird.
But I think that's what it is. She's trying to not be a stranger. You know, like, this is so embarrassing to even admit, like, online somewhere publicly, but you know that, like, you know when they say you have like a playground crush? You know, if a guy likes you, he'll like pull your hair or like little things. I personally, when I actually like somebody, And when I feel comfortable with them, like you just said, your friends can say it to you and it's fine. But if a stranger does it, it's not. Maybe it's because she's trying to not be a stranger.
Yeah.
You know, like you guys haven't hung out yet, right?
No.
Yeah, so maybe that time is coming up and she's just trying to like, you know, break the ice already so that when you see each other, it already feels kind of familiar and you can like see if you like what you are seeing as opposed to it being like, oh, like brand new and we're still all formal with each other and we're being polite. Like, I'm sure she is polite, but I really think like some people flirt like that.
Yeah, and I get that. I just think you should save that for in person.
In person? Okay.
I think if you're going to tease someone in that way and kind of poke fun at how they look or, I don't know, whatever, you should save that for when you meet in person. I think before that, if you're just texting or you've met online, you should be more like traditional flirty. You can you can say like, oh, I don't believe like that Cheetos are your favorite chip.
Right.
Or
but not something super specific.
Not outright insulting someone.
Right. Okay.
Because I can't see that you're smiling on the other side of the screen, right? And so...
You know, I never thought about this. Because, like, obviously I've been on dating apps, too, like I was in the past. And I feel like sometimes maybe I guess I would come across as mean. Even though, like, that's just, you know, like, that's just how that's my banter. Like, that's how I enjoy talking. But you're right, like, for somebody who's never met me, like, ever, and it's just on text, like, it could come across really, really, like, strange.
Yeah.
So that's good to know.
Cool. I'm glad that we talked about that.
I mean, no, it's good advice. When I'm back on these dating apps, after it doesn't work out with this guy, I will keep that in mind.
You know what? If it makes you feel better, I would just hop back on now. Don't let this guy hold you back. You know? This guy, I don't know. He's not being very serious, and we're trying to give him the benefit of the doubt and be nice to him, but you don't owe him anything. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So let's jump into today's main topic. Should a guy pay on the first date? And there's a lot loaded into that, but let's just hear your initial reaction / answer.
So I have kind of two answers, which is like a cop-out, but I personally think it depends on if there's going to be a second date. I think as girls, you know, like we're not, at least if you found yourself a girl who truly likes you and is interested in you, you know, like she's not out there just to get a free meal. I definitely do have friends, you know, who've been like, oh, you know, I don't want to buy groceries this week. Let me go on a date. Totally, that happens. But I think as a guy, because, you know, you're often put in a position of like where you're leading, or even if you're a girl and, you know, you're leading for some reason, like I think you should see how the first date is going, and because obviously you pay at the end. And if you enjoyed that person's company and you fully plan on seeing them again, 100% the guy should pay.
Yeah, I get that. My initial reaction is yes, the guy should always pay, even if it's clear there's going to be a second date or not. Sometimes it's not clear. But there are certain situations where you're not paying at the end. I think nowadays, it depends on people's preferences, but going for coffee or going for a dessert or a snack is pretty common, and you have to pay right away. For example, crumble cookie.
Right, I was just thinking about that.
So that's why I think the guy should always pay outright. We touched on this topic in our previous episodes, but I do think that in general, it doesn't matter whether you have more traditional values or you subscribe to more modern forms of dating, but I think it's just a nice gesture. On a first date, hopefully you're not... It depends what stage of life you're in.
Right.
But I think nowadays it's pretty common not to go to a really fancy sit-down dinner.
Yeah, not a first date.
And so we're not talking about an exorbitant amount of money. Honestly, as a guy, if money is an issue for you, you shouldn't be going on dates.
Whoa.
You should be getting your finances right first.
That's a really hot take, okay?
So if you can't afford to pay $20, and maybe it's not even $20, maybe it's $5 $5 for a coffee, then I don't think you should be in the game.
But you know how, like, they tell you those stories, like, if you find the right girl, like, she's gonna help you get your money up. You know?
Yeah.
I personally think, because also I have, like, a little brother, and, like, I do respect people's monies. Like, I don't think people should be wasting, you know, like, how long are you going to keep paying for dates? Like, I think we talked about this before, but for the first date, yeah, okay, it is important for the guy to pay because it kind of lets the girl know. But it's only good for those situations where it's confusing. You know, like if you're going out with a friend and then he pays for your meal for both of you, then you'll be like, oh, like maybe it's, you know, something like it's like a sign, like, okay, it's romantic. But let's say you're meeting somebody off of like an app for like the first time. You know, I feel like you as the guy, if you're, you know, if you're planning it, you're asking the girl out, maybe do something like a little bit, yeah, like you said, coffee. You don't need to go sit down and have like a 3-course meal. And then, yeah, you should pay because also it's romantic, whatever. And like you said, even if you, I personally, if I was a guy, if I really didn't like how the date is going, because sometimes you meet people and immediately, like, you know, you just know it's not going to be it, right? I would personally, like, at the end, I'd be like, oh, like, did you want to split? Like, so easy.
That's crazy talk. Okay, hear me out. I totally hear you. I get that. And I think a lot of people think that way. And they're like, this date didn't go so well. And we're just getting to know each other. It's not a big deal. I can just ask to split. But I think that really affects your reputation. I don't know if you've heard this, but there are like Facebook groups and like websites out there where girls will talk about dating horror stories, especially like off the apps. And so if
they post pictures of the dudes on them too.
Exactly.
Identities are not protected in those groups.
I feel like if you're a dude and you're not offering to pay, you're gonna end up on that. And I don't know, it's weird. We'll have another episode that gets more into gender roles, but there's like, it's weird. Everyone is pushing equality, and I think we're totally on board with that. But then when it comes to expectations for paying, it doesn't, I mean, that's totally like out the window. I think that's okay. I just think that everyone needs to be on the same page. And I do think as a guy, there is a lot of responsibility on your part to make a good first impression. And even if it doesn't go well.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, sorry, I'm saying all of this, but I'm trying to put myself in that shoe of like, you know, being on like a first date. And I think always it feels, you know, nicer because as a girl also, like, you know, there's another side of like, you know, the equation, if you think about it. Like, okay, for sure, you're paying for like that $10 coffee even. But the girl, you know, first of all, is giving you her time, which is invaluable. A guy's time is also invaluable, but I feel like as a girl, like, because you have so many guys you can always choose from. There's always a roster. You're never the only one. So, you know, you're getting her time. And then, you know, her outfit and her hair and her makeup and her jewelry, like whatever it is that she likes to do to feel dressed up. Like maybe it's like a really long shower with crazy products. Like that is also her way of paying for it. You know, what do you have to do? Like your 3-in-1 body wash and you're out the door.
Yo, chill.
But so I guess in that way of thinking about it, it's okay that the guy does pay on, like, I guess the point is I would personally be okay with splitting, and I have split on a date that I knew I was never going to go on a second date. In fact, I offered to split because I was like, oh, like I really, like, I don't want to feel like I owe somebody, like, you know, money or something like that. But I think it'll always be like welcome, and, you know, people will always be happy if the dude is gonna pay for the first date.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do want to say though that guys should be putting in an equal amount of effort, and some guys do, to get ready, to dress well, put on some nice cologne, and also to, I don't know, if you've known them already, to pick them up. And so the guy should be putting in as much effort. But I do
more than
think,
just paying.
Yeah. And I guess that also brings us to a tricky situation because we're talking about meeting a stranger for the first time. But let's say that you have been friends already, or you've you've known them in some way,
Right.
and then one person asks the other person out.
Right.
So maybe the guy asks the girl out, or the other way around. In a situation like that, a lot of people say that the person who asks should be the one who pays. What do you think about that?
I have also heard that a lot, and that's why
Yeah.
earlier when you were telling me, that I could text the cheater, because I'm mad at him right now.
Yeah. I'm mad at him too.
That I should text him to hang out and be like, oh, we should do something. Not because I think he's going to make me pay, but I feel like that puts a lot of responsibilities on me.
Yeah.
So I do think if you're the one asking, then you make the plan. Then you are going to be responsible for bearing whatever costs are associated with that plan. Like if it's your suggestion to hang out, if you're inviting this person to hang out with you, then you should be the one responsible for paying.
And as a girl, if you were in that situation, you would feel okay doing that?
I think, I think, and I have done it in the past.
Wow.
Like, I think I am a super, like, traditional girl. Like, I'm very, like, I believe in, like, the gender roles from, like, the olden days.
Mm-hmm.
For, like, the positive ones, I guess. So I do think guys should pay. But I think if I, like, in the past when I have asked, like, a guy to go on a date with me or, like, I don't mind paying.
That's already less traditional.
But I know, to ask a guy to, okay, but sorry, context. Like, the guy was my friend for, like, a really long time. And, like, it was just for me to show him clearly that I liked him.
Yeah.
But I think in general, like, I think the guy should always be ready to pay and ready to bear whatever costs come up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you should leave it up to the girl to say, like, oh, do you want to split? Or no, I got it this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I very, like, how I was saying earlier, like, you can say, like, oh, should we split? I think that job is solely for the girl to say. I don't think as the guy you should suggest it, because also there could be situations where maybe you think the date is horrible, but she's loving it.
Yeah.
So when you ask her, like, oh, should we split? It's like a clear sign to her, like, either one, that you're broke, or two, like, you didn't enjoy it, or there's not going to be a second date.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of money stuff, like, Ethan, what you were saying, I do agree that the guy should take all the responsibility. But if the girl offers, because how long are you going to keep paying for dates?
Mm-hmm. And I do want to talk about that. I just want to make 2 points. And I think if you're a guy out there and you want to date effectively, you want to set yourself up for success, build a good foundation, I think it's really important to pay for a date. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the main reason. Not because you're trying to impress her, not because it is your duty, but because you want to get off on the right foot. You want to show that you're generous, you're thoughtful, and that you care about them.
Right.
And even if it doesn't get anywhere, it shows that you're a person of character and you're a person who treats other people well.
I think it also, yeah, you're right. It adds to, like, it shows your values a little bit if you're able to go and do that.
Yeah.
Not saying that if you can't afford to pay for a date, you have no values, but I definitely think it shows that your mind is in the right place.
Yeah. And I like what you said, Sania, about how the splitting should only be an option if the girl offers. I personally think that as a guy, if the girl offers to split, you should still say no.
I agree.
Should still pay.
Or you should at least protest a little bit. Like, at least, like, I don't know if you've, like, I think it's really common in, like, foreign cultures, even if I'm going to get a coffee with, my friend who's Lebanese, like, we'll both be standing at the Starbucks and, like, fighting to pay. Like, there should at least look like, just make me feel like you're not trying to use me either. So if we're on a date and I offer to split and you just say, like, oh yeah, sure, I'm going to feel really insulted.
Yeah.
Because I offered with full intentions of, splitting or whatever. But at least I think you should be like, oh, like, are you sure? Like, oh, like, I can still pay. And then if I still insist, then you should let me.
I don't think the guy should let you.
At all?
I think just to get off on, like, a good foot. And this is not you, like, setting precedents for the rest of your relationship. It's just the first date. I think that everyone enjoys being taken out, being treated to a meal, even just with friends. And I think for guys, this not only gives other people a good impression of your character, but I think it sets you up for success.
Okay.
Just because it shows that you're like willing to sacrifice, you're willing to just be generous to the other person, whether or not it's gonna go anywhere, right?
Okay.
A lot of times, the way you tell someone's character is by the way they treat people that they don't like.
That's true. That is a very true point.
And so it shouldn't matter if you like your date or not. You should just be a good person. Wow. And I'm not saying like if you don't pay, if you have to split, you're a bad person.
Right.
But if you're able to, if your finances are in check, then I think you're giving yourself like that's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Okay.
And I think that applies even if a girl asked me out, I would still offer to pay.
Okay.
And I would not really be down to split.
Okay.
Because if I wasn't interested in her, if I just wanted to be friends, I would just tell her that and not even go on a date. If I'm down to go on a date, and I hope that like guys out there like takes this seriously and they're not just trying to mess around.
Right.
You should, if someone asks you out, which is pretty uncommon, you should only go out if you're interested in them, and if you've gone out and you are interested in them, you should just pay.
I like what you said, that like, yeah, your character is defined by how you treat people that maybe you don't like, and like maybe it's not fair to say if there's gonna be a second date you should pay. But I think then that in that case, if a guy's always to try to show put his best foot forward, kind of is always going to pay for a first date, I think you should be smart about where you go on those first dates.
Yeah.
Because like I think me and you talked about this like off camera a little bit, but like if you're just like if you're dating around, if you're trying to find that person, like it starts to add up financially. Like let's say you have 3 dates a week, like even if they're like 25, like 30, because you're not just paying for the girl, you're also paying for yourself. It's like, let's say like 50, 60 every day. And then you do that like, 3 times 4 weeks is, I don't know, almost like $250.
It's more. It's definitely more.
Just a lot of money. It adds up over time during the month. And then that's just one girl. Let's say if you're like cycling through a couple of people because you're trying to figure out who you like. So it just gets, the price.
Yeah. It's like $600 per month. We want to prove that we can actually do math. We don't want to get exposed out here. About $600 a month.
I'm not good at mental math. Okay, my calculator's not here.
But Sania is good at math, even though like she messes up 180 and 360 degrees sometimes. Okay, so then I think that brings us to the next question, which is what are the expectations for how long a guy should keep paying for dates for? And I've asked you this off camera before we even started this podcast, but back in my prime, I was going on dates and I was paying for every single one of them. And
his prime was like 2 months ago.
Yeah, I've fallen out of it, to be honest, but there were 2 girls that I had gone out on multiple dates with off Hinge, and I paid for like every single date. And even though I was happy to do so, I didn't expect that.
Okay.
With one of the girls that I really saw things like going somewhere with, she offered kind of to pay on the first date. Like she reached for her wallet and that was it. And I appreciated that. But then after that, like I would just pay for the rest of the dates. And there were like multiple opportunities. On our second date, we had dessert, we had dinner, and so there were like multiple opportunities, but I would just pay each time, and she didn't even like reach.
Right.
And so I think I really want to talk about what are the expectations. You've said some interesting things to me in the past, and I want to explore that a little more.
Okay, first I'm going to talk about this girl, the one who reached for her wallet.
Yeah.
I think on the first date, because, as a girl, you don't want to come in and, expect that the other person's going to pay. And you also want to show him that you are willing to help and contribute. So, yeah, she reached, and she probably would have gone ahead and, paid or split or whatever it was. But I think if you kind of took the lead there and you sort of went ahead and paid, I think it kind of teaches her for later. It kind of set, a precedence, a tone, Ethan's very traditional. He's going to pay every time. So I think maybe that's why she stopped reaching for her wallet. Not because she doesn't appreciate what you're doing or, she doesn't have any intention to help, but it's just, that just became, the new norm.
After I paid on the first date? That's crazy.
Yeah, because it just makes you realize, he's just one of, like you said, he's traditional. He likes to pay for the girl.
Mm-hmm. But the point I'm trying to make, while we're talking right now, is it shouldn't matter if you have more traditional values or you don't.
Right.
I think that you should pay regardless, just because it will help the relationship overall.
I think the girl sees it as because he paid on the first one, he's one of those people that likes to pay. Or not likes to pay, that is comfortable with, this is how he dates. He will pay always.
That can't be the case. I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends out there who will pay for the first date, but then that's not the expectation going forward.
Okay.
I think this goes beyond traditional values or not. There is a social norm right now that a guy should pay for the first date.
Right. Yeah.
That's okay. For better or for worse, that is a norm. My argument is that you should pay anyway because it sets you up for success. But even though there's that social norm, I don't think the social norm going forward is that the guy keeps paying for every single day.
Okay, I guess my question is, if I'm that girl who reached for her wallet on the first date, how do I know on the second date that I'm supposed to pay now? Or I should be paying, or I should, how do you communicate that to me? Because in my perspective, I went for my wallet and you didn't allow it. Sure, it was a first date, but everybody has different, it's your first time meeting, you don't really know how the other person thinks. So it's time for the second date, and it's should I eat, how would I know that, maybe I should try to reach for my wallet again?
Yeah. I don't think this should fall on the guy. I think that the girl should offer.
Right.
And right now, I'm thinking that if the girl does not offer on the second date, that's kind of a red flag for me.
Okay.
And here's the thing. The reason why with a lot of my friends, they will start splitting after a while. I don't know if we should say a certain date to start splitting, but they will start splitting because it's important in a relationship that you're both putting in 100%. You're both invested into the relationship.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be financially invested.
Right.
But very early on, that is the type of investment that it is.
True.
And so I get it. Maybe the conversation is immaculate. Maybe they are really carrying that and trying to get to know me. Maybe that's a little different, but I do think it's important after the first date for the girl to show that they value you and they value the effort that you're making to plan the dates, to pick you up if they're doing that, to get dressed.
Right. I'm just going to say I politely disagree.
Okay, wait. I want to hear what you think.
Okay, I think
this is not what you were saying a month ago.
Okay, because I'm trying to be honest with myself, and I'm looking, down my dating history, and I'm like, have I paid on dates? And I think I've always only ended up paying on dates if it's awkward and if the guy's not offering, I'm very I have a lot of pride. I remember I went to Starbucks on this date with a guy back when I was I don't know, 2016 or something. And it was time to pay, and he wasn't quick enough about it, so it made me feel like he doesn't want to. And I was like, oh, I'll just get it for both of us. Like, it's fine. Like, I've done that, but...
Yeah.
Anyways, but that was in, like, a negative way. But if we're talking about positive, healthy relationships, like, you know, if I go on a first date with a guy and I like him, he pays, and it's time for the second date, I think I more expect him to pay for dates, you know, 2, 3, 4, until I become his girlfriend. I think the first date, I feel like, you know, I won't get offended if you don't want to pay. Like, the first date, it's okay if we split, but also, you know, like, it shows me shows me a different kind of character if you are insisting and you are paying.
Yeah.
But I think I would let you continue to pay up until the point that I become like your girlfriend or something. And at that point, you know, I'm fully invested in you because I see that you are so invested in me. Because I think for girls, like, I don't know, or at least for me, like, I'm very, like, I try to protect myself a lot.
Yeah.
And so once I'm sure, like, oh, you know, he's been paying for like 10 dates in a row, like, you know, now I want to do something for him. And I feel like when people do stuff for other people, it should come from within. Like, I've taken guys out on dates. Like I like to go get my nails done. So I've taken guys to get pedicures because I feel like guys don't get treated, you know, to the good life enough. and you know, if I'm asking you on the date, I'm asking you when you're free, and I'm making the plans, I'm making the, you know, obviously you're not going to call the nail salon and book an appointment. Like, I'm going to do that. And, like, I'm happy to pay. Like, I would love to. That's me taking care of you. But I think, you know, on a second date, like, to start to split, I feel like that's just, for me personally, it's just like taking stuff. It's not necessarily bad, but I don't think I like it that
Interesting.
much. I do understand what you're saying, that early on, you know, it has to be a financial investment between both. But also, like you said, like, especially because we're older, dating is so much more serious.
Yeah.
I think, you know, if you're dating with the intent of it going somewhere, like, okay, show me that you are capable of, like, managing your finances. I also don't think it's a good idea to be one of those people that will pay for the date and then talk about the money later.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's, and, like, people do it in such subtle ways. They're like, oh, like, da-da-da, oh, my doing bad this week, and da-da, and it's just like, don't say that after you've already, like, you know, it, like, almost cancels out whatever good thing you did by paying for the date.
Yeah.
Or, like, if before we get to the restaurant, you're like, oh, yeah, like, I looked at the menu and, like, it's kind of expensive, like, da-da-da-da, like, you know, just giving me a heads up. It's like, do you think I'm, like, a gold digger? Like, I think any respectful girl will be careful, like, because, you know, she knows, like, you're going to be paying. I'm not going to sit there and order, like, 4 apps and, like, 35 drinks and, like, you know, I'm going to be very, like, controlled and, like, respectful because I know I'm not spending my own money. I'm spending somebody else's money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I feel like that as a girl you can do. But I think to split, I don't like the way that feels.
Got you. And I think you bring up some really amazing points. There are a lot of gems in what you said. And I think I can get behind that. Maybe before you define the relationship, the guy pays. And then afterwards, there's more, like, even footing when it comes to money.
Because then you're, like, a team afterwards, you know?
Yeah.
Like, right now, and, like, when you're just dating, it's still you and me individuals. And that's kind of where the guy's maybe having to step up a little bit and take more financial responsibility. But once you're together, like I care about your money. Like, I don't want you to, like, you know, like, I understand your financial responsibilities, maybe to your family, like, whatever, maybe student loans, whatever it is. So, like, I want to help you. Like, let's do it together.
Yeah. I think if you're a guy out there and you've been paying for dates, then what you should be looking out for is the girl out there to take advantage of you or not? And so is she contributing in other ways to the conversation, to making plans and texting and communicating well? And because I do think there are girls who would order 4 apps and, like, multiple drinks.
And people do eat that much. That's fine. It's not like that's a bad thing to order.
Hell no. What, 4 apps?
But I think if the girl's like, you know, if she keeps asking you, like, oh, aren't we gonna go get dessert now? Aren't we, like, you know, if she's very, like, I think as a, you know, if girls are expecting guys to pay, I think we shouldn't be sitting there and asking. Like, oh, can you get me this next? Or, like, oh, what about going to go get this? I think you should wait for it to be offered and then, you know, politely accept.
Yeah.
And not make the other person feel like they're being used.
Yeah. I think that if you find yourself in the situation, you're not able to tell. If you have any doubts that they're using you, they're not really invested into getting to know you, definitely ask the people around you. Feel free to DM us, and we would love to answer that on the podcast, specific to your situation.
Yeah.
But I think I guess if you're the guy, you're paying for all these dates before your boyfriend, girlfriend, then you should see how invested they are in other ways.
And like Ethan was talking about getting your money up and getting your finances in check, like I said, to the girl also, like to me, it translates to like, you're investing in me, right? That time before we're dating. But it should also be like that for you as the guy. You know, like you are investing time and money into this girl, but is she worth it? You know, like is she, you know, do you see something coming out of this?
Yeah.
And that's how you should decide to keep going on these dates, because there are investments, financial investments. And like, you know, is this something that you want to invest in?
One thing that you've told me in the past that I really love, and I think it's important to bring up here, is that you don't have to ball out on every single day.
Way.
And what you've told me in the past, which I knew, by the way, you have to, is that a lot of times the most thoughtful dates are not the ones where you're just throwing money around. And
100%.
so walks in the park and picnics and just doing something interactive. It doesn't have to be expensive. Playing pickleball. Those go a long way to building chemistry. And so as a girl, would you feel offended if like there was like a shift, like going on dinner dates, and then now you're like playing
I would not be
volleyball?
Offended at all. I think if the girl's in it for the right reasons, and if she's not there to use you for your money, I think at the end of the day, it's about spending quality time together and doing something that you both enjoy doing. You know, like as long as you're not making her do something so boring that she doesn't want to be there, which I doubt anyone would do anyways.
It's quite possible. It happens a lot.
I think it's like a positive thing. Like, you know, like going to dinner is fun, and I love getting dressed up. I love going to dinner, but I think it's so much more intimate to like go for like a hike together, or to like go bowling, or to, you know, like I think just you can start planning better dates because you know them more. You know, it's like maybe, you know, they really like to play Monopoly. You can just sit at home and play Monopoly. Like, I think that's really cute. Like the way someone plays Monopoly can tell you a lot about them. So I absolutely don't think it's bad. I think definitely in the early stages of a relationship, you know, go get that coffee on a first date. You know, maybe do some of these like more budget conscious dates, which are cute and still, you know, intimate and fun. But I feel like, you know, if you're headed in that girlfriend boyfriend direction, you do have to like throw a couple of, you know, those nice dinners or something in there.
Yeah.
But you don't have to only do that, because that could get really boring. Like, don't only take me to the movies and to dinner and to like, you know?
Yeah. One thing that I want to address, and I don't want to take up too much time, is that I think there is a danger on the guy side paying for every single date, because a power imbalance can develop. Okay. And when it comes to money, it kind of sucks, but our society revolves around money.
Right.
And so guys should never do this in general, but you should never use you paying for dates as leverage.
Okay.
And I think as a girl, this is another point that I wanted to bring up, because I feel like as a girl, you should not feel like the guy has all the power either. And so maybe the answer to that is having dates that are where you are balling on a budget, not spending too much money, and you have dates where you are doing nice things, sit down dinners that are less budget friendly, to like make sure that there is no power imbalance.
I think you bring up a really, really good point. Like, you know, especially when you're going on these dates, like I think there's sometimes an expectation that, you know, like, oh, when he's dropping you off, like something's gonna happen. Whether the guy's expecting a kiss, whether he's expecting more, like people do expect stuff. And I think as a girl, like I have gone on dates before, and I felt like almost like a little pressure, like, oh man, like, you know, I saw like that bill was pretty expensive, like, you know, maybe I should at least give him a kiss on the cheek, even if I don't want to. And I feel like that's that's also a good reason for the girl, because at least if it's a first date with a guy and you're discussing where you're going to go, like, you don't have to go to the most expensive place.
Yeah.
Just so that you also don't feel like you owe them anything, because that's not a good position to be in.
Yeah. Okay. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
And with that, we'll transition into our final segment of the day, and we're calling this Dapper Slap. And how this works is we're gonna present a situation, and then we're gonna pretend that our friend told us that they did this, and we'll either dap them up and we'll support what they did and back them up, or we'll slap them and say that that's something that they shouldn't ever do again in the future, and they're being idiots. And so the first situation that we're gonna call Dapper Slap is when a guy or a girl has shot multiple shots with people in their social circle. And so I've known people who they will ask a girl out, and then she'll say no, and then he'll ask her friend.
Okay.
And that like will happen multiple times. And I think in this specific situation, the guy doesn't feel bad or self-conscious, because in his mind, even though he's asking them out, he's asking them out more in a way to just get to know them.
Okay.
And not explicitly label it as a date.
Okay.
And so he feels like he can keep shooting his shot.
This is kind of like, I think I would slap, first of all.
Okay, I would slap too.
Okay.
And okay, wait, keep going.
No, just I would think I would slap, just because obviously girls talk, guys talk, so it's really icky that, obviously if you're being asked out, you want to feel special, you want to feel like that person has eyes for you. And so if I'm talking to my friend over here and she's like, oh yeah, Ethan asked me out last week, and I'm like, what? He asked me out yesterday. I'm not going to want to go. If you're asking everybody, you're for the streets. You should be a little bit picky. And obviously I am understanding to the fact that sometimes one friend group can have multiple amazing people, which is totally fine. I myself have been guilty of dating people from the same friend group. But I think those should be like rare situations. I think if it's just like a first date, and if you're like, oh, let me see if I like this person, please don't do it in the same friend group. Unless you really have reason to, like that second person from the friend group after being rejected by the first. Like, I feel like that's the only way I would like allow it. But I think if it's just like, oh, like I want to just see how it goes with this girl, and oh, she said no, how about this one? Okay, next one, you're going to be a joke in that friend group.
Yeah.
I think same for guys. Like if a girl came and did that, like let's say I ask you out today and tomorrow I'm asking your friend and another friend, it's going to just look really icky.
It comes off as desperate. And even if you don't feel desperate and you're just trying to get to know people better on a one-on-one basis, I don't think that is the right way to do that.
I agree.
If you are interested or possibly interested in multiple people within the same circle, you should be able to like know who you might be more interested in through a group setting. If you're like hanging out in a group, you should be narrowing it down there. But I will ask this. Sometimes it's not just a friend group. A friend group is usually smaller.
Right.
What if your social situation was like a volleyball league or a church? Okay. And so there's just a lot more people. I think it gets a little more complicated. I don't think you're necessarily shooting yourself in the foot. Yeah. But I don't
I mean, exactly. I think it depends on how much the people talk, Like if you're going after two best friends that are like joined at the hip, you're like a clown. But if you're like, like you said, like a volleyball league or like a church thing, like, everybody knows of everybody else, but they're not necessarily talking, about personal stuff to each other all the time, I think it's okay. Because obviously, you are going to shoot your shot with the people that you meet in your circle. Yeah. And sometimes it just so happens that you are interested in more than one person from that social setting. Yeah. But I think you should be careful, Yeah. Like you should be careful to try to not make a habit of multiple people at the same place. Because it will start to it'll just look badly on your character.
Yeah. And I will say, we both highly recommend that you keep watching this podcast because we're going to teach you how to shoot your shot and not miss. And so hopefully you won't even end up in a situation like this where you have to like shoot multiple times.
Ethan's talking from a lot of experience.
Other people's experience, not mine.
You never know, those 3 dates a week in his prime,
Yeah.
you were shooting some good shots.
I was, but I wasn't doing it in a smart way. And so, yeah, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so we'll do one more, Dapper Slap. And so this one is, this person is a double texter. And so the other person is not responding fast enough for them. And so they will keep double texting.
Super slap.
Super slap.
Super slap.
You got your super slap card. Okay, I think. Okay, overall, definitely a slap. But I think sometimes in certain situations, and I've done it.
Yeah.
Okay, but why super slap?
Super slap because everybody's on their phones all the time. There's no shot they're not texting you back, and it's not intentional. I forget to text people back sometimes, but it's also still intentional. I've never missed a text from the boss.
Wow.
You know? So you choose who you're going to forget to respond to.
Yeah.
So that's why super slap, because you don't need to be that. It shows clingy vibes. It shows like, why are you even checking our text again to see if you got a response and texting again because you didn't? Like, be cool, be distant. You know, like, you sent a text, now just wait. It's like, you know, I think especially in like the early dating days, but I think if you have like a more intimate bond, like maybe after date 3 to 5, I don't know, if you're just a lot closer and you think something might be up and that's why they're not texting you, that's an okay situation to double text.
Yeah.
Like this situation with the cheater, like with his car stuff, like it could be maybe considered okay for me to double text and be like, hey, like, is everything okay? This, like, you know?
Yeah.
But definitely not in the early days.
I think that it depends on what your double text has in it. So if you're saying like, oh, why aren't you texting me back? Or like I've been like asking about this. That's horrible.
No,
That is
don't do
like, that is a super, super slap. That's like the maximum slap.
Yeah.
It's like in power slap where you knock the other person out. It's that kind of slap. But I do think in certain situations, it's totally okay to double text the other person. Maybe they told you that they're going to be busy over the weekend, and then you double text them after the weekend and you ask how everything went.
Okay.
Or you asked them something and they never replied and something came up that reminded you of them.
Okay.
I think it's okay to double text. Just don't bring up the fact that they did not respond.
Okay,
Yeah.
Like if the conversation kind of ended-ish on the last text, it's okay to double text. You know, but if you're blatantly asking them like a question like, hey, do you want to hang out tomorrow? And then they don't reply. And then you go back in that chat 2 days later and you're like, hey, so what are you up to today? Like, don't do that.
Yeah, that's also bad. That's also bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to like meeting up, if they already have not reciprocated your energy, your next follow-up text should not be about meeting up again. Yeah.
Should we do the third Dapper Slab?
I think we'll save that for next time.
All right.
Yeah. But thanks for tuning in, and we hope that you learned something new, and hopefully we didn't offend you, but I thought this was really good.
Yeah, this is enjoyable.
All right. See you next time.